Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Ala Muhammad. I'm student of Generic BS Nursing, 6th batch 3rd semester, 2nd year, session 2024 to 2028 at SINAHS Institute of Nursing and Allied Health Sciences, Quetta. Thank you.
And myself, Muhammad Akbar, student of Generic BSN, 6th batch, 2nd year, 3rd semester, session 2024 to 2028 at SINAHS Institute of Nursing and Allied Health Sciences, Quetta.
So today we are here to perform the human digestive system lab. So first of all, you should know about the human digestive system. What is human digestive system? Human digestive system is a system in which multiple organs work together that convert large molecules of food into the small molecule of food that easily enter into the bloodstream. This is called human digestive system. Then the human digestive system is divided into two portions, alimentary canal and accessory glands. Now Mr. Akbar will explain the digestion in the mouth and anatomy physiology of the throat and esophagus. Thank you.
So, basically the throat and esophagus, that is the starting part of the GIT tract. So first of all, we will discuss about the oral cavity. Oral cavity is basically the starting point of digestive system that contains some of parts like teeth, glands, tongue and palate. So here in the oral cavity, there are basically two types of mechanisms are performed. The first one is mechanical and the second one is chemical. Now, the chemical and mechanical process both are performed together, but mechanical process is performed by the help of teeth. Whenever we take a piece of food, so with the help of teeth, we start crushing them into small pieces to increase the surface area of the food. And at the same time, the salivary glands, they start releasing the saliva that contains salivary amylase that start initially the digestion of carbohydrates. So basically the releasing of saliva and the crushing of the teeth, these are basically mechanical and chemical processes. After that, when these processes are performed, so with the help of tongue, we mix them together to make a bolus, and we engulf the bolus towards the esophagus. And esophagus is the second part of GIT tract that contains basically three parts: upper esophagus, middle esophagus and lower esophagus. Esophagus is basically a hollow tube that carry the bolus from the throat towards the stomach. And if we talk about the parts of esophagus, esophagus basically contains 4 layers. The very first one is incisura, the second one is the first one is mucosa, the second one is submucosa, and the third one is muscularis. Muscularis basically contains two types of muscles. The first one is circular muscles and the second one is longitudinal muscle. The circular muscle and longitudinal muscles, they are basically performing a movement that is called peristalsis movement. Whenever the circular muscles contracts itself, it basically what we can say that bring in a grip the bolus, and the longitudinal movement that basically mix up the saliva and the food together strongly. And with this sequence, they carry the bolus toward the stomach. And at the end of the esophagus, there is a sphincter that is also called a cardiac sphincter that basically work as a one-way door. When we engulf a piece of food or a bolus toward the stomach, so it basically frequent or stop the backflow of this stomach ingredients toward the esophagus. Now we will discuss about the stomach.
So we have stomach. Stomach is present in the J-shaped structure. The stomach start from the esophagus and end at the duodenum, the part of the small intestine. The stomach is present in the epigastric region. It has two sphincters. I will show from the diagram. It has two sphincters. The first initiating sphincter, which is present at the beginning of the stomach. This sphincter called cardiac sphincter. This sphincter has multiple names like cardiac sphincter, lower esophageal sphincter, gastric sphincter and gastroesophageal sphincter. These are all of the names of the cardiac sphincters. Then we have another sphincter which is present at the end of the stomach. This sphincter called pyloric sphincters. Then the stomach has 4 main portions like cardia. The beginning portion of the stomach is called cardia. Then we have fundus. The side portion of the stomach is called fundus. And then body, the stomach of the body. Then the last portion of the stomach is called pylorus. Then stomach has two curvatures, greater curvature and lesser curvature. Greater curvature means the stomach has curved in the large area, and lesser curvature lesser curvature means the stomach has curved at this small area. This is called greater curvatures and lesser curvatures. These two curvatures curve toward the duodenum to make the J-shaped structures. Then the stomach has 4 layers of tissues, which are mucosa, which is the innermost lining of the stomach. Then submucosa, muscularis, and serosa. Serosa is the outermost layer of the stomach. Then when you cut the stomach, there are 4-like structures. These structures are called rugae, which is present in all over the stomach. Then the stomach has 3 types of muscles, which are oblique muscles, longitudinal muscles, and circular muscles. These are the 3 types of muscle of the stomach. Then we have function of the stomach. The stomach stores the food and digests the food. Then how our stomach digests the food? When the food enters into the stomach by the help of cardiac sphincter, the stomach becomes activated. When the stomach becomes activated, then the pyloric sphincter, means the end sphincter of the stomach, become closed. Then the stomach starts its digestion. The stomach digests the food through multiple methods. Like there are glands present in the stomach, which is called gastric glands. This gastric gland has multiple types of cells that secrete multiple secretions. Like there are the first type of cells which is present in the gastric glands called mucous neck cells. Mucous neck cells produce and release the mucus, and this mucus enters into the stomach by the help of duct. This duct called gastric pit. When the mucus enters into the stomach, the mucus covered and protect the lining of the stomach. When it protect the lining of the stomach, the mucus also protect the lining of the stomach from the acid. Then there is a second type of cells of the gastric glands, which is called oxanthic cells or parietal cells. These oxanthic cells or parietal cells produce and secrete the HCl, which is hydrochloric acid. This hydrochloric acid enters into the stomach by the help of same duct, which is gastric pit. HCl also help in the digestion and provide acidic environment for the pepsin and kills your all microbes which have you ingested with the food. Then the last type of the gastric gland cells are chief cells or peptic cells. These chief cells produce and secrete all types of enzymes like pepsinogen enzyme, renin enzyme, and gastric lipase enzymes. These enzymes enter into the stomach by the help of same duct, which is gastric pit. That's why it's called chief cells, because it produces all types of enzymes. It produced inactive form of enzyme, which is pepsinogen. Pepsinogen is the inactive form of enzymes. When it enters into the stomach, it converted from inactive form into active form by the help of hydrochloric acid. Means it converted from pepsinogen into the pepsin. Then these pepsin enzymes start the digestion of the protein. Means it converts the protein into the polypeptides and peptones. Then we have gastric lipase enzyme. The gastric lipase enzyme also digests the fat in our stomach. Like it converts the triglyceride into the diglyceride. But the digestion of the lipase is very less in the stomach due to the acidic environment of the stomach. Then we have renin. Renin is only present in the infants. It's not present in the adults. It digests the protein, means milk, in the baby's stomach. When the food completely digested, then it converted into the chyme. Chyme means your food reacts with the multiple chemicals. Then it will be converted into the chyme. And this chyme moves toward the pylorus. Pylorus is the end part of the stomach. Then here your digestion will be completed. Then when your stomach become inactive, when it finish its digestion, the pyloric sphincter become open and this food entered into the small intestine. Then we we have three phases of the gastric secretions, which are cephalic phase. Cephalic phase, when your vagus nerves stimulate the secretions of your gastric juices. Before entering of food, it starts the secretions through vision, smell, taste, and thinking about the food. Then we have second phase, which is gastric phase. The gastric phase, in which the stomach starts its secretions. There is another type of cell which is present in the gastric glands called enteroendocrine cells. This enteroendocrine cell produce the hormone which is called gastrin hormone. The same hormone stimulates the secretion of the gastric juices, like I already told you, mucus, HCl, and multiple enzymes. Then we have last phase, which is intestinal phase. When the food enters into the small intestine, then the small intestine release hormone. Two types of hormones, like secretin hormones and cholecystokinin hormones. These two types of hormone reduce and inhibit the secretion of the stomach. So these were the three phases of the secretion of the gastric juices. Then when the food here completed, the digestion of the food completed here, then this food entered into the small intestine, and the small intestine has its own functions to digest and absorb the food. Then Mr. Akbar will explain the anatomy and physiology of the small intestine and large intestine. Thank you.
So basically the small intestine is a curved shaped structure. You can see here, basically it connected the stomach to the large intestine. Small intestine basically contains three parts: duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. And further, the duodenum is divided into two parts, D1 and D2. So we will discuss the physiology of these parts. As Mr. Ala Mohammed told you that when the acidic chyme enters from the pyloric sphincter to the small intestine, so basically that chyme is in acidic nature, so that small intestine cannot tolerate. So the small intestine in D1 part, the pancreas release a bicarbonate towards the acidic chyme, and this bicarbonate react with the acidic chyme in the D1 to convert or neutralize the acidic chyme. After the neutralization of acidic chyme, this chyme enters in the duodenum part 2, D2, that is the name of duodenum part 2. When this neutralized chyme comes toward the D2, so the amylase, lipase, protease, these enzymes released by the pancreas and also from the bile duct, bile juice. Bile juice basically emulsify the pet, mean that convert the lipids into small droplets, and the other enzyme like protease that help in the digestion of protein, lipase in the digestion of lipids, and amylase that help in the digestion of carbohydrates. So in the duodenum, basically these functions are performed, and the duodenum also contains a small projection like finger-like projections that are called villi, and also these villi contain their own small projections. These are known as microvilli to increase the surface area for the absorption and digestion. If we talk about the second part of the small intestine, that is basically jejunum. Jejunum contains a large amount of microvilli and villi to further absorb the food or nutrients from that chyme. The third one, that is helium. Helium is less contained microvilli, but the major function of the helium is to absorb the salt of bile juice to reflect that juice toward the liver. If we talk about the second part, that is large intestine. From the small intestine, there is directly connected to the large intestine. The connection, the border from which the small intestine and the large intestine is connected, these are basically known as ileocecal valve. After the ileocecal valve, there is a cecum. You can see here, it is the cecum. The large intestine, we will talk about this part. The very first one is cecum. The second part, that is ascending colon. This one, the third part, that is transverse colon, and this part is also known as descending colon. After the descending colon, there is a small S-shaped structure that is known as sigmoid colon. After the sigmoid colon, behind the stomach, the small intestine, there is a small portion that is basically storing the pieces. This is known as rectum. After the rectum, there is anus. It contains two sphincters. One is made of smooth muscles, and one is composed of skeletal muscles. So let's discuss about the physiology of the large intestine. When the digested food enters into the cecum, so the cecum is basically a sac-like structure that receive the indigested food from the small intestine and carry these food towards the ascending colon. Ascending colon basically just perform two functions: to absorb the water from the digested food and also the electrolytes from that is also known as calcium, magnesium, these vitamins etc. And it is also performing a peristalsis movement. Peristalsis movement means contracting like that. As I told you that circular muscles are there and longitudinal muscles are there. They are basically doing a contraction. That contraction is also known as peristalsis movement. So these feces are slowly coming towards the transverse colon, and the large intestine basically it's have two functions only. One is to absorb the water from the food, and the second one that is electrolyte absorption. But the transverse colon basically contains a specific type of bacteria that is known as E. coli bacteria. E. coli bacteria basically produce vitamins such as vitamin B12 and vitamin K to boost up our immunity. After that, there is descending colon. Descending colon is basically just performing this, carry the stools and making them hard and store them towards the sigmoid colon. Sigmoid colon basically just store the food that doesn't produce any kind of bacteria, just to absorb the water from the feces and to store them in itself. After that, there is a rectum. Rectum is a small sac shape that just contain a small amount of feces. When it fulls, so it directly attached towards the sphincter that is also known as smooth muscles composed. It sends a signal toward the brain that now it's time to pass the stool, because the rectum and sigmoid is full. So it again reflects its message towards us. The second sphincter that is composed of skeletal muscle, which is in our own control. So sometimes you may experience that sometimes that we feel that now it's time to pass the stool, but the place is not that favorable environment, so we just control itself. So basically it is the function of the external sphincter. So it was the anatomy and physiology of the small and large intestine. Now Mr. Ala Mohammad will explain the accessory organ of the GIT system. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Akbar. Then we have liver and pancreas. The liver and pancreas, which is present behind the stomach. The liver and pancreas play a very important role in the digestion of the food. So first of all, we have liver. Liver is present in the right hypochondric region, and it is spread to the epigastric region. The liver is a bilobe structure, means it has two lobes, right lobe and left lobe. The function of the liver is to produce bile. The liver has multiple functions, but related to digestive systems, it produces the bile. And bile is helping in the emulsification of the fat. It means it converts the large molecules of fat into the smallest molecules of fat. That enzyme easily react with the fat. Then we have, I will show you. Then we have gallbladder. Gallbladder is present in the posterior surface area of the liver. The function of the gallbladder is to store the bile and secrete this bile toward the duodenum and the pancreas. Then when the liver produces the bile, this bile moves toward the gallbladder by the help of several ducts. Like the first duct that I already told you that liver has two lobes, right lobe, left lobe. Then the right lobe has its own duct like right hepatic duct, and the left lobe has left hepatic duct. When these two ducts become joined, another duct will form. That duct called common hepatic duct. Then after common hepatic duct, there is another duct which is called cystic duct. This cystic duct open into the gallbladders, and this bile move into the gallbladder. Then the same duct, which is cystic duct, carries back this bile toward the pancreas and duodenum part of the small intestine. After cystic duct, there is another duct which is called common bile duct. This common bile duct moves toward the pancreas and duodenum part of the small intestine. Then we have pancreas. Pancreas is present just behind the stomach. I will show you. Here, it's present just behind the stomach, and it is the present in the epigastric region, and it is spread to the left hypochondric regions. The pancreas has two main portions like head, neck, body, and tail. These are the four portions of the pancreas. The pancreas is a heterocrine gland, means it is endocrine gland as well as exocrine gland. It produces hormones as well as all types of enzymes. Then the pancreas has its own duct, which is called, which is main pancreatic duct. This main pancreatic duct called duct of Wirsung. Then this duct of Wirsung carries the secretions like enzymes toward the duodenum. Then the common bile duct and pancreatic duct, when they become joined, another duct formed called hepatopancreatic ampulla. This hepatopancreatic ampulla entered into the part of the small intestine, which is called duodenum. It entered into the duodenum, and there is a sphincter which is present at the end of the hepatopancreatic ampulla. This sphincter called sphincter of Oddi. When this sphincter becomes relaxed, all secretions enter into the duodenum part of the small intestine. Then I told you about enzymes of the pancreas. The pancreas produces three types of enzymes: pancreatic lipase, amylase, and protease. But pancreas produces three specific types of enzymes just for the digestion of the proteins, like trypsinogen, chymotrypsinogen, procarboxypeptidase enzyme. These all enzymes are proenzymes, means it is inactive form of enzymes. When these all enzymes enter into the small intestine produce enzyme which is enterokinase enzymes. This enterokinase enzyme convert the trypsinogen enzyme into the trypsin, means it convert the inactive form of enzyme into the active form of enzymes. When the trypsinogen enzymes converted into the trypsin, then the trypsin start to convert another enzyme into the active form, like chymotrypsinogen enzyme will be converted into the chymotrypsin, and procarboxypeptidase enzyme will be converted into the carboxypeptidase enzymes. And these three types of enzymes start the digesting of the protein, means it convert the polypeptides, peptones into the amino acids. Then pancreatic lipase enzymes start the digestion of the fats. First of all, the liver emulsified the fat, means it convert the large molecules of fat into the small molecules of fat. Then the pancreatic lipase enzyme start to digest these small molecules of the fat. It convert the diglyceride into the monoglyceride. Then the pancreatic amylase enzyme start the digestion of the carbohydrate. It convert the polysaccharide into the monosaccharides. When the digestion of the foods completed here, then this food move toward the jejunum, ileum, and these all foods will be digested further and absorbed into the small intestine, which already Mr. Akbar told you. Then when this food, the digestion of the food completed here, then this all food enter into the bloodstream. And your indigested food means those food which is completely digested, then this food excrete out from your body through rectum and anus. Then your digestive system completed here. So it was our lab which is about human digestive system that terminated here. If any one of you has any inquiry, question or any doubts, so you may ask.